Tim Parnell here with eXp Realty with another buyer video for you and things to think about when it comes to the buying process. So this video is about the cost of home ownership and what you should expect to pay monthly here in Texas. So, I mean, if you're from Texas and you're a homeowner in Texas, then you have a pretty good idea about this, but perhaps you're a renter and you haven't really gotten into that, or maybe it's been a while since you've had a mortgage payment and you just don't know what to expect, and or frankly, you're from out of state and you're wondering, well, what's the cost of home ownership in Texas for something that I want? So the answer is the mortgage payment, as I understand it, for Texas can be quite a bit different than other states. And so, for instance, you know, we have your principal and your interest and your taxes and your insurance, okay? But when it comes to taxes on your home here in Texas, that's the part that, depending on the price of the home, can actually be fairly steep as compared to what people are used to in other states. Now, because we don't have the state tax, it's based on your home ownership. You know, you saved somewhere else, but you have to spend it here. The thing is, you're gonna make that up on a rent payment anyway. If I own a home and I rent that house out, I'm gonna rent it for more than my mortgage payment. So I know that not only am I making my mortgage payment, I'm gonna make money on top of that. So as a renter, if you want a pretty good gauge of, you know, if you're currently renting a home, could you afford the home you're in? The chances are likely yes, but it depends. And we just have to take a closer look at your financial situation and, you know, where that home is that you want to buy. But to give you an idea, a $300,000 home, taxes on that house run roughly in the $10,000 a year range, okay? Now, what can vary on that is what school district it's in and how much that school district adds to your monthly taxes and monthly payments that increases that amount, you know, either annually or by the month. So it's the answer to the question of how much. Often the biggest variable is the taxes for the house, but you can kind of ballpark it in general, and it's usually roughly 2.25% of the value of the house is what you can pay in taxes annually for that home. So if you pay it lump sum in a year, you can factor that in. If you're going to pay it by the month, you know, that's in the escrow, and generally if you're doing it through escrow, the escrow company, the title company will, when you buy the house, will factor all that in and overestimate it so you're not short, is generally the idea. Other things that you can do is, in the state of Texas, you can file a homestead exemption, which gives you a slight tax reduction and the ability to write some of your taxes off. And so it's a good idea, which you really have to do, I guess, at the first quarter of the first year, full year that you will live in your home is when you file your taxes. So if you were buying in the middle of May, you wouldn't file your homestead exemption until January of that following year, okay? But it's a good idea to do. If you're of retirement age, you can get senior citizen. It basically locks in your taxes. So as the tax rates continue to go up, or the home values might go up, it will lock you in at a rate that keeps you there. Even if your home goes from, say, $300,000 to $400,000, you're still paying the $300,000 taxes on that house. But just know that if you end up buying a house from somebody who has that tax exemption, you might inherit that for the remainder of the year. But then when you, like this happened to my wife and I, we bought this house, and because it was exempt, we've paid out the remainder of the year on the original homeowner's tax rate, and the next year it jumped way up. So we had to be financially prepared for that. So $10,000 a year on a $300,000 house is a chunk of money, all right? I mean, in many cases, we're talking about you got to budget another $1,000 a month just to pay the taxes for that house. It's a significant amount of money. Now, the amount of house that you can buy here in Texas in the Fort Worth area for $300,000 is a really nice home as compared to where you could, what you could get somewhere else. And so that's another thing to consider. So that payment will certainly reflect in the amount of home that you get based on the taxes. Everything else fairly, you know, calculated, fairly standard. But what a lot of times I run into is a prospective buyer is on one of the big search engines for real estate, you know, Realtor.com, Zillow, something like that. And Zillow says your payment is, estimated payment could be, right? And all it gives you is the principal and the interest. And it leaves out the taxes. And then that buyer comes to me and says, well, I thought the payment was supposed to be whatever Zillow says, right? And so that's where the explanation comes in. Well, principal and interest is what they're identifying, but what they leave out is the taxes and the insurance. You have to have the insurance on the house too, depending on the size of the home and the quality of the home and the replacement value of the home. That insurance can be higher as well. And again, you know, $300,000 home, insurance is, depending on the finish out of the home and the cost to rebuild the home, can be in the $2,000 to $3,000 a year range. So right there between taxes and insurance on a $300,000 house, you could easily be in about $1,000 a month additional payment on top of the mortgage payment. So just trying to give you an idea there. Now, when it comes back to renting, one of the things that a general rule that I try to get people to think about is, what are the prices of the home? Just factor the cost of home ownership as roughly 1% monthly payment of the price of the home. So if it's a $300,000 home, we're talking about $3,000 a month. Now, a $300,000 home, probably less than $300,000, or $300,000 home is less than $3,000 a month for payment, all in. But then you've got the cost of upkeep. Okay, you've got the other things that when you become the homeowner and not the renter, or whatever the case may be, those are factors that, you know, increase the cost of owning that home. Okay, and that should be part of your monthly budget. So that's usually what I do. It's not a hard rule, it's a general, just to give somebody an idea, well, how much house can I afford? Well, if you can afford a $1,500 payment, then roughly take a $150,000 home and calculate that, and maybe all in and cost of ownership and other things that surprise you and come up to repair, roughly $1,500 a month. Okay, don't hold me to it, just a general rule. All right. Other things to think about for cost of home ownership is the home that you're buying in an HOA? Okay, HOAs, and that's a whole different video we'll get into about, do you want an HOA? Do you not want an HOA? Is it beneficial? Is it not? Is really a tailored thing to you. But as for the purposes of this video, the cost of an HOA will absolutely affect your monthly payment. Now, we do have HOAs here in different communities that are only a couple $100 a year. Some are a couple $100 a quarter, and some are definitely a few $100s a month. And so depending on the price point of the home, a couple $100 a month could absolutely keep you from buying a house at a certain price point that you might have hoped to get, but that's going to keep you from getting it. Other things to think about for cost: do you want a home with a pool? All right, this is something that a lot of people don't think about. They want to buy a home with a pool because, gosh, it just sounds like a great idea. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy with a home with a pool as long as it's at my friend's house. Okay, and the thing about the pool is it takes money to maintain properly. You have to spend that money. Most people don't think about the budgeting costs of maintaining a pool. And depending on the quality of that pool, what does it have? Water features, hot tubs, you know, does it have a heater? How deep is the pool? How big is the pool? Are there trees around the pool? So many factors go into affecting the cost of maintenance on a swimming pool. And so you've got that to consider too. So again, a rough number, not having had a personal pool myself, but hearing it from the people that do, year round, you could easily budget $100 to $150 a month extra just to have that pool at your house for all the costs of maintenance, chlorine, cleaning, keeping it full, whatever the case may be. So just know that. Oh, and just having the water toys and fixing the things that break. Just those types of things can add up roughly to $100 to $200 a month, just to give you an idea. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end of the video. And remember, if there's anything in the world I could do for you, just be sure to reach me. You can always leave a comment below or hit me up with the email or phone number listed in the description below. And be sure to like and subscribe, and that way you'll be notified when other videos come out in the future.